Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition, a cross-stream edition of This is Revolution podcast with our partners in crime and slime, Sublation Media. Doug, Lain, and I are planning a very fun bash. We'll probably talk about that maybe a little bit later. But if you are new to this channel, please hit like, please hit subscribe. If you're new to Sublation Media and you're watching there and you haven't done it yet, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notifications bell, as Doug and I are constantly adding new programming to our channels all the time. We want you guys to be alerted when these new shows drop. You know how I know Doug is adding new shows to his channel? Because we are on a group chat. I get to hear all the drama. I don't talk much on that group chat, Doug, because I'm a fly on the group chat wall. I am that guy. I read every message, everyone. Then I go gossip in Discord spaces. It's not true. I made the Discord part up because I never go on Discord because, man, it's like smart guy Reddit. Discord is. And someone commented, because if you're new to this channel, because you came here from Doug's, like, is that doom metal on the intro? Yes, of course it is. I'm a musician. I'm a metal guy. I got a new backdrop. My lady friend flew down to Mexico to help put this collage of what's left of my musical life together. So I'm excited. Excited for the new look show. Also, if you guys are religious people, if you're good, positive energy people, send some positive energy to our brother Pascal as he is resting due to Ramadan. Fasting kind of wiped him out a little bit, so he's taking a bit of a break for a while, but he will return ready, stronger than ever. And we're still doing the Mau Mau Hour with a special guest. I don't want to say who yet, mainly because I'm waiting for them to confirm. But I do. It will be special, and it will be for patrons first. Before we bring in our guest, Doug Lain, I want to play the intro clip that I made for the show. Someone dare ask me, I can see the chat, and someone named Lenny Powers has asked me, Jason, have I listened to Sleep? Of course. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I used to be in the same practice space as Matt Pike and the High on Fire guys. Of course. Of course. Lenny, are you new to the show? Have you not listened to countless music stories I've told? Lenny, pull up a chair, buddy. Because Doug and I are going to tell some stories. He doesn't have the same tour stories as I do. But he does have stories too, as we were telling some off air that I won't repeat. Doug is giggling in the virtual green room. That's always a good thing. So here's the intro clip to get you guys ready for what we're going to talk about today. The virtual world in which we live in.
Never had a camera in my head.
You're afraid. That's why you can't leave. It's okay, Truman. I understand. I have been watching you your whole life. I was watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step. I watched you on your first day of school. episode when you lost your first tooth. You can't leave, Truman. You belong here. With me.
In the 1998 film The Truman Show, Jim Carrey plays the title character, Truman Burbank, who lives an idyllic life in a quaint coastal town that is a cliche of 1950s Americana. A perfect town free of crime, traffic, or unhappy people. Unbeknownst to Truman, the town, his home, is all a lie. He exists in the largest movie set in the world where his entire life is filmed and broadcasted 24 hours a day as The Truman Show. From the womb to adulthood, people have followed the adventures of Truman Burbank. From first steps to first kisses, his parents, wife, and friends are all actors. Every experience, every mundane interaction is curated and sold for public consumption by the svengali of the simulated paradise, the director of the show, Christof. Are we now at a point in neoliberal capitalism where, unlike Truman, we are aware that we are indeed the market commodity? All our human interactions are transactions to be bought and sold. Our only value is a market value. The curated experience isn't a nightmare, it's the gold standard. We'll discuss this. We'll ask these questions and more. This is Revolution.
Our subject today, should wiretapping be legalized?
Talk to me. Say something.
Say something, goddammit. You're on television. You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, let's bring in our guest without any further ado. You may know him as the man that ran the Zero Books YouTube channel. I know him as the man behind Sublation Media, ready to drop their first book very soon. The magazine going to drop soon. Please welcome my good friend, Doug Lain.
I'm sitting here with my mess behind me, feeling like I need to have someone fly in to get me a backdrop. Looking
Doug.
good there.
And you know, this is even all the one poster I really wanted. There's this really cool poster they made for us when we were on tour overseas, and this was all in the trunk of my car for the last 2 years.
Well, it looks nice there behind you. You look like you should be doing a radio show that's broadcast at the same time. Like I don't know, some really cool local pirate radio show or something. Yeah, it looks awesome. That's the look I want. I'm gonna get
I
that.
want to do more music shows and then definitely lose more patrons.
So we've been watching Doug his whole life, someone says.
I found, so there's so many pictures of you, and there's actually some new, we're Facebook friends, so I could have took one of the many selfies that you take.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's not like you are not without selfies that are taken from very good angles.
Yeah.
I
mastered that.
I was this close to using actually a more current photo, and then you've been around a minute. You are an OG in this world, not just the podcasting world, but writing world. You've been around.
Yeah. My first book came out in, what was it? My first book came out in 2006, but my first short story professionally sold 99. I've been around.
So I
Wow.
wanted to get the picture where you look just like Seth Rogen.
Well, that's every single one. So you could have just taken
I
thrown a
mean,
dart.
that one right there. I saw that one. I was like, I gotta get young Doug.
There are a
Before
few.
kids.
There are a few profile pictures on my Facebook where actually it is Seth Rogen. Just a flip.
I've seen some of those.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get that look where you had that look in your face before you had all 4 of them kids, and they just took all the joy out of your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to get one where you still like the picture I had. There's like, oh look, Doug looks hopeful.
Yeah.
For all them goddamn kids.
Yeah. So yeah, the picture that you're using now is like, geez, the one that's on here. I think I was 38 years old at that point.
Were you?
In that picture? Yeah.
Oh, so you had all 4,
Yeah, I had all 4 at that moment. Yep.
but some of them were still cute.
They were all still cute.
Aww.
Yeah. Now I don't know if any of them
put
are.
it out so the kids know that you said nice things about them.
Yeah, I followed it up though with that's an insult. But yeah, no, I'm always glad to be on This Revolution. I remember the first time I was on, and it was a smaller show then, and we had a lot of fun, and now you guys are just blowing up. So
a lot of that is due to you. When we were still a very small show, right when we started to switch to doing more live streaming stuff, you said, "Can you run some of our live streams on your channel at the time?" And It was huge to getting our message out to more people. So
yeah, but I think we're at the point now. I think this is the last time you have to mention that, because at this point on, it's all you, man. It's all.
No, I have to always give thanks. It's when you
Right.
you forget when you don't give thanks. So
All right.
there's a few people in this world that have actually in this world and in the podcast world that have reached out and helped me out. So I always have to give thanks to those people, because not everyone is helpful and as kind as people like you and Ben and Sam, some other cats.
Yeah.
Let's talk science fiction-y movies. I wrote this thing here so I could be prepared for you to be smart for a second.
Yeah.
We are in a moment where, unlike Truman Burbank, and I found this out, and maybe you knew this, his name is Truman because he is the true man on the show. Everyone else is an actor. We are very aware that cameras are rolling. We are modeling and performing for them at all times. Every experience must be documented. It must be shared. We must be rewarded by peripheral acquaintances with generic virtual hearts and inconsequential thumbs up. We are all Truman now because we are selling a brand, and that brand is us. Have you ever commented on the behavior of a friend and said that they were on brand with their actions? Influencer culture isn't something we have to search for. It's ubiquitous. Even our children can be silenced and mesmerized by watching on YouTube other children playing with toys. This channel is dwarfed by channels starring average people opening boxes of products. We're streaming commercials and loving every minute of it. Recently, I was reading an article about the culture of event of the last decade or so, Coachella. Many look at it like Woodstock for millennials and Zoomers, but it is a bombardment of branding. Every stage has a name, has a brand name. It is the antithesis of Woodstock. Doug Lain, what say you about the Truman Show in this current moment?
Well, I will say that the reason why I decided to create another video essay, and mention the Truman Show in the essay, kind of use the Truman Show as a way to explain ideas, was because I have been going backwards through a book that's just been a touchstone for me since the 90s, since I was young, called The Society of the Spectacle. And if you watch the Truman Show and you're familiar with this old book, it seems to me evident that the filmmakers were aware of the critique of Guy Debord and his book, The Society of the Spectacle, because in that book, this old French radical describes a modern life as a life not lived but viewed, or one where you're forced to be in the audience of your own life, where you are turned into a passive observer of history. And I'm at the point in the book where I'm reading about how modern conditions of life, the capitalist society, the commodified world, transforms our sense of time and keeps us from being able to live out history as something that we're actively participating in, something we're actually shaping. And the Truman Show is about a man who discovers that he's being turned into kind of if not a passive observer, then um, a puppet of forces that are beyond his control in his life. He's the star of his life, which is more than many of us get to be, but he's also scripted, manipulated, and observed. And he realizes that the world he is in is artificial, constructed, manipulating him, and he attempts to break free. And I think that lines up with what DeBoard wanted to do, but he wanted to have the working class realize how they were being turned into spectators and break through their conditions and seize history. So that's why the Truman Show seemed like a good thing to point to. One of the things about the Truman Show at that moment, when it came out in '98, it was coming out right around the same time The Matrix was going to come out. There was a movie called the 13th Floor, Existence. There Ed TV. This was on people. This sort of critique of the contemporary world as a spectacle.
Well, let's
kind of mind.
Would you say this? And this is how I look at science fiction, as I've been watching all these 1980s Twilight Zone episodes, which are not very good.
Spielberg had something to do with that, right? Did Spielberg?
Kubrick?
No, Spielberg.
No, Spielberg did Amazing Stories.
Okay, right. Okay.
And that's when they like, okay, we're going to come out with Twilight. So, everything's copycat.
Yeah, right.
So science fiction to me is always of its time, right? Watch science fiction from the early 70s. It's all about the environment because there was a big environmental movement. You watch the who's the guy we're talking about that did RoboCop and Total Recall?
Oh,
talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't think of the guy's name for the life of me right now, but you watch his films and they definitely really nail neoliberalism, because that's going on at that moment with
Paul Verhoeven. Is who I think you're
thinking of. Thank you, Verhoeven. And when I watched the Truman Show, the things that I was reading about what they took out of the film, as far as what they didn't go with, what the original script was supposed to be, how he was supposed to be a high school kid that comes of age. They wanted to do it in a major metropolitan area. And the reason why they said no major metropolitan area, they were like, we don't want it to look dystopian, which I thought was interesting. Changing him to a 30-year-old man having a midlife crisis and then making the city look idyllic really takes away any sort of science fiction-y atmosphere to the film, because when we think of science fiction, as Dr. Michael Harris always says, we're still all stuck in Blade Runner. Blade Runner is is the current state of, to me, how we look at sci-fi films. And the Truman Show, we have at this point, reality television is a little less than 10 years in, and it's really dominating network TV. And another thing, when you look at the Truman Show, that I was thinking about when I was watching it, and then I watched that Twilight Zone thing that I want to watch later for the patrons with Doug in the champagne room. But there's no distractions. It's such a 90s thing. In the 90s, you could have a television phenomenon. Lost, the last episode of Seinfeld, right? These things can happen in TV. Hell, even the Super Bowl, to a certain extent, is a much bigger television phenomenon back then, before we all had not just the internet, because the internet did exist. We didn't have devices that we were married to that we could put so much information in. So the idea of the Truman Show, which I still think is interesting, I think the idea of one man or one person capturing the attention of the nation, of the world, it's kind of impossible.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, the Truman Show You know what made the Truman Show seem dated or misguided was something called the Jenny Cam. Do you remember the Jenny Cam? Maybe I shouldn't give this away that I know what this was, but I think it was
Jenny.
early 2000s. There was young woman who in her
Jenny McCarthy?
former no Jennifer Ringley. She was nobody in particular,
Uh-huh.
but she actually maybe the Jenny Can had already been on the air or already streaming, but she put a camera in her dorm room in her junior year. It's like in 1996.
Okay.
She's 19 years old, installed a webcam in her college dorm room, and it would stream to the internet. It would take a picture like every 10 seconds
Mm-hmm.
and stream to the internet. And it became fairly popular, but it didn't dominate. I mean, you don't remember it, so
No.
there you go. But yeah, you would if you were, a prurient type, you would tune into Ginny Cam to see if she taking her clothes off. Right now, let's see, she's gonna do that.
Oh, she would
eventually.
actually get naked and stuff. It was really her life. Like,
It was her dorm room. Yeah,
here I am. I just ate
lots
beans.
and lots of shots of her sitting at her computer. Lots and lots of shots, hours and hours of an empty room. But certain moments that then would get screen captured and and archived of her taking off her clothes or whatever. There was even, she had her boyfriend over, shots of that.
Word.
Yep, early days. And yeah, I don't remember how that ended, but she went on David Letterman at one point because she was like internet famous, early days of internet famous. So that's by the time the Truman Show came out, people were already turning themselves into Truman.
I mean, do you think? I mean, look, I wrote this piece about punk and politics, and I definitely have been working on the part two. And one of the things I've been working on with the part two of it, which kind of goes into this whole thing, is like people being sold to, is with the death of Kurt Cobain in '94. You also have the rise of groups like Green Day.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that album comes out the same year. It's coincidental. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm.
But when you start calling punk music punk, and I just recently watched this kind of funny documentary about Abercrombie and Fitch. Remember that brand, Abercrombie and Fitch, from the early 2000s? It opens with a Blink-182 song. And I think that's just so comical of that music. Like, if you were doing a documentary about mall culture of the 80s, the last thing you would play would be X. But to play this punk band, Blink-182, and everything about these bands were just selling product. If you think Warped Tour was about skateboarding and the hottest new metalcore band, like, I got bad news for you. That shit was about selling you sugary caffeine beverages, skateboard shoes, and everything else. Total branding opportunity. And that music that happens post Cobain is really, really ripe for that. And no one has a problem with it anymore. Once we accepted just the terminology of pop punk, it's like, yeah, we're all for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think there's a guy named Cory Doctorow who wrote a novel about this idea that in the future we wouldn't get paid. We would just get, I guess, something like what there is in China now, like popularity points or something. So you would,
social credit scores and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, social credit scores. I mean, so all this stuff in a way is happening, but the point is with the Truman Show and other programs like it or movies like it, it was already happening and had been happening, and that's why a social critic like Guy Debord or a radical like Guy Debord would write that society had turned into the spectacles because that's what it was turning into. It was turning into the commodification of everyday life. But as I was reading this book again, one thing that
which I'm reading too,
realized.
by the way.
Are you reading Society of Spectacle?
And you know why I'm reading it? You know why I'm
Why?
reading it? Because
Why?
I watched one of your Society of the Spectacle video essays, and I
Uh-huh.
was mildly jealous.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this book, and I'm gonna make a video essay that's gonna be as good, hopefully, as one of Doug Lain's. I'm being totally. I'm trying to be funny.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
being totally serious.
and I'm being not so serious to say, yeah, you'll never reach me. I'm the video essay man. So no, but well, what? So I'm glad. Which one was it? Which one did you remember the title? Or
Oh, it kind of caught me. It might have been when you were still. There was a moment where we were getting good in the group chat where we were trying to share each other's work.
Oh right. Right before I left Zero. So yeah, I mean, I've been talking about the Society of Spectacle on and off like my whole freaking adult life. It's like been a big influence on me. And I'm trying to get rid of it. This is why I'm going all the way through the book from.
I think I called you or messaged you about it. You don't remember? I either called you or messaged you about it. Like
right.
you made me not. I'm not gonna say mad, but I definitely was motivated.
That's good. This is the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. Well, it's still early in the week, but I'm this is what I mean. But in all seriousness, this is what you want to do, right? You want to make something that other people who are doing what you do look at it and go, oh, I should have done that. So
look, I'll be honest with everybody watching right now. I lived in this really cool music studio for years, and around me there were bands that were much larger than me, and I would get motivated by them if they were making something dope. Actually, when I was doing this show early on, if you listen, you could hear the bleed through from the walls because some of the bands were was a Story So Far was behind us blaring. No, one of those bands with one of those fucking names was blaring through the walls. And it's that motivation that makes you fucking work harder. It's when people knock on your door, they're like, dude, that's dope. So I have no problem saying, oh, Doug, that was dope.
Yeah, cool.
If we stop saying that to each other, then we're being haters and kind of punks.
Right, absolutely. But also I like the little extra twist of like, that was dope, but I'm going to make something just as good or better. You watch.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm still competitive.
Yeah. That's cool. But neither one of us are likely to. Well, what we should both aim at really is to create something that is as relevant and that sticks in people's heads the way Gita Board's book did for me. And I think to do that, we'd have to overcome the book. Like that's my goal with doing these videos backwards. Because what I've done is started at the very end of the book. Because the dirty secret about that book is I pick it up all the time and I read the first chapter or two, like all the time, and then that's it. And like I think I've read the whole book all the way through like once, like so I'm starting at the end and going through each part of each chapter by chapter backwards to get to the premise, to finally just sort of absorb it all. And one of the things that I'm realizing as I've absorbing it that way is that it's not about how bad it is to watch TV. It's not about how awful it is to be interested in a product or buy something at the mall. It's about how those things have replaced our desire to really take hold of our lives, both individually and collectively. Like for Gita Board, he still had like the memory of he was friends with people who remembered the Russian Revolution. Had been there. He he was part of the milieu of socialists who really thought that this transformation of the world was in the offing, and just we just had to push it through. And then you take a step back from that, and something that's I saw Derek Varn was in the chat earlier, and I'll mention him. One of the things that I've realized talking to him for Pop the Left over the years was how much change there's been and how close we are to a time that's completely different than ours. Like, in the 19th century, breaking away from feudal lords and the aristocracy was a real that was a revolution.
Mhm.
And socialism was supposed to be the end of that revolution. Wasn't supposed to be this is some sort of we're on pause with the revolution. But so that's the other thing I realized reading this book backwards was like it's about like what Truman's trying to do, taking charge of his own life, making his life into something for himself. But to do that, you have to do that collectively at the same time. The other thing I'll bring up, have you ever seen an old TV show called The Prisoner? Which I talk about that all the time.
What year? What time frame?
1967 British TV show. Patrick McGowan.
No, dude. Were you watching like Masterpiece Theater and shit like that?
Nah, it's not like Masterpiece
PBS?
Theater. Yeah, no, it's like no. People should check out The Prisoner because it was originally he did a show called what was it? Secret Agent Man. It was Secret Agent Man in the U.S. when it was rebroadcast here, and it was like he was supposed to be James Bond. In fact, Patrick McGowan like turned down the role of James Bond because he said, "I don't want to be a womanizer and I don't want to kill people. I don't want to be a bad role model for my kids." But he had been a spy on TV for a while already, and he created this show called The Prisoner, where the spy character gets kidnapped and forced to live on an island in an exact duplicate of his London apartment. He's given a number and no one calls him by his name. And every week he tries to escape from the island, and every week maybe he thinks he does, but they've tricked him, and then yet another attempt to get the information out of him. And so this this island is very much like the set in the Truman Show. He's living in this false reality that's constructed by him, and everyone on the island is just really watching him, because the whole thing is, it seems like at times the whole thing is just set up to try to get information out of this spy. The whole village is a trap except for this spy. And it was great. It was a brilliant show. But there are a lot of similarities between that show in 1967 and this movie in 1998, 21 years later.
So in the Truman Show, there's a line that I actually, and maybe people watching remember. Harry Shearer says it really quick. He goes, that Truman's the first corporately owned baby. And that kind of made me go like, what? Because they say it so kind of like quick. And as the main character, or as the director, Ed Harris's Christof is doing kind of a fluff piece. That I feel like you don't see as much anymore because we don't have Entertainment Tonight to the same level.
Right.
Now it's like you're accidentally getting caught by TMZ.
Right.
How close are we, Doug, to the first corporately owned baby, so we can watch from the womb to the tomb, which kind of could have been that movie.
I mean, like I don't think we're gonna watch. Like, not all of us will watch it. You pointed that out at the beginning. Well, there'll be corporately owned babies, and they'll struggle to get clicks. That's what.
We need a new baby. This little Indian one's not cute enough anymore.
Yeah, no, this one's no one's watching little Tubby anymore. That's where's the next baby?
Someone says the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
I guess that's as close as we can get. What I found interesting about it, and then maybe I'm digging too deep. I remember, and since our children are around the same ages, you remember this too. Sonograms were just for the family, right?
Yeah.
That was it. Maybe you showed the in-laws and stuff, but
I had enough kids that I broke through that barrier while my kids were coming out.
Really?
So yeah, you would go and early days, like with my first kid, we went and they did a sonogram. They took a picture of Ben when he's in the womb. This is what we're talking about. My firstborn, and it was a blur, and I showed it to my family, And I was like, oh, there's a figure in there. Yeah, it's like, cross your eyes and it'll become 3-dimensional. It's just, but then by the time my third kid came along,
They had those good sonograms.
it was like almost 3-dimensional, and it was like, that was amongst the better photos he's ever taken, and
Do you remember those sonograms?
someone says, Doug said, when my kids were coming out, like their albums.
Yeah, you didn't know Doug
Albums.
Cobb's kids like albums?
Yeah, that's right. I did for a while.
Noah's the hottest mixtape in the streets.
That's right. There you go.
But yeah, like I just the fact that there's like, social media, especially, not so much with us because I'll speak for myself. I'm older. And if you're having a kid at my age, props to you.
I have been told that at
Mhm.
our age, Jason, the kids might come out not so good. Like, it's not just like, you women after the age of 40, that there's a medical risk for having a kid at that age. Turns out our contribution to sperm also ages and things go wrong with it. So
the sperm is flying around like old people driving on the freeway.
Right. And it can, you conceive a child with old sperm, they're likely to have like schizophrenia or some weird mental stuff going on. That's what I heard recently.
Well, I have a dusty sperm.
I cannot verify. Yeah, you have, what is that?
I have a dusty sperm child. I have a child that in my 40s. That's the Phoenix.
Right. Well, I think it's not as early, and like 40s are okay for a man, but at 70 or 60, yeah, you're really tempted fate. So someone says men over 40 have a higher propensity or proclivity to have kids with Down syndrome. So yeah, this is a little off track.
Sad stories of old guys. Someone said Dusty Sperm is a punk band. Or it's my life. Which one is it?
Yeah, well, I've never been told my sperm was dusty. So
sorry.
I think that must be an analogy or a metaphor or something. Because if it came out dusty, there's something really medical wrong.
I'm sure people are hella sad. They're like, dude, bring Pascal back. We never have to worry about dusty sperm.
Doug the Marxist, public intellectual talking about dusty sperm coming out of Jason. All right. But anyway, I'm punchy. I've been talking a lot today. This is what I'm like. This is just how I am.
But no, what the whole point about it was that there's a lot more sonogram pictures. Like every aspect of life kind of has to be shared. And I remember when taking pictures, you only kind of took them for your family, because I didn't give a shit about what the person I went to school in the 4th grade with thought about my life. Because they, why would any of them care about what we were doing? We haven't talked in like 40 years.
Yeah, I agree. But with Facebook was originally not meant for everybody in the world to be part of.
Remember when it was really exclusive? Only Stanford guys had it. Remember that?
Well, not just that, but also like if you're on Facebook, you might have 10 to 15 people who are your friends, and that's it. And you would like send grandma pictures of the baby through Facebook. It's and I guess there are still normal people out there who use Facebook that way. But but Facebook's not even the thing. It's Instagram and TikTok.
I like
Elon.
How do you feel about when people get like all their facts from TikTok?
I feel that is one more step down the road towards the apocalypse. That
it's like I know I mentioned this on the show the other day because we joke a lot about Jean and Cuba, but when they came on the show, it was kind of an instantaneous kinship. And so not too many people even listened to the episode because it was so early on when Jean was just a guest on the show.
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking about his credentials and who he is, but we never introduced Cuba and Jean with their credentials, like we would any other guest. And it's almost like people think Cuba really is like a nerd on the Death Star. It's like, no. He has like a legitimate job. And the guy has, decades of experience, definitely in doing, like big time consulting work, especially with political science. He's definitely someone I go to when I have certain questions about things. Gene as well.
Well, I want to point out that my son Noah is in the chat, so I just
do we have to not talk about your love life?
No, we can talk. Well, we probably, I don't know.
Probably should.
But he's called the Duck King. If anyone wants to chat with him, that's who.
Oh, you just busted him out.
Yeah, that's my.
Oh, don't do that.
Sorry.
Now he's got to deal with people telling about his dad being all kind of names.
Yeah, he deals with that anyway. No, we can talk. We can talk any which way. But you know what he said? He said, "How is this about the Truman Show? We should probably talk about the Truman Show."
Yeah, let's talk about more about. You wanted to also talk about some of the other science fiction of that era as well.
Well, I mentioned The Prisoner, and the reason I brought up The Prisoner is because like the difference between The Prisoner and the Truman Show, I think, is like the difference between a period of time where the state and monopoly capital was in your face obvious about controlling and dominating the world, whereas like in the late 90s, the corporate control and the neoliberal order, the Duck King's saying mean things about me now, and the neoliberal order was more hidden. Like the influence that it had on your life had to be discovered.
Don't read the chat.
Sorry, my own kid is heckling me right now. It's okay, but anyway, so that difference is worth noting, and I wonder if we look at like I don't know, today's Matrix Reloaded or something, if that is also we can find the difference in our own culture as we watch that change.
You made a comment to me because so if you guys are patrons and you want to stick around for the patron after hours, we're going to watch a little bit of a 80s Twilight Zone that I believe J. Michael Straczynski wrote it, called Secret Service. Very Truman-esque, and it was done in like 86, 87. And I think it really, dovetails nicely into what we're talking about here when it comes to the idea of being surveilled. Where when you watch the Truman Show, when he finds out he's being surveilled, it's always kind of like a moment where he feels betrayed. So the whole movie to me is like watching this man constantly be betrayed. I think one of the down parts about the film is the fact that it didn't look more dystopian, that it does look so pretty, because it is really hard to wrap your mind around how evil everything is. His parents are actors. Everyone he interacts with is an actor. And they've given him major phobias that have caused him not to leave this studio island that he's on, killing off his father. Like, that's insane.
I know. It's really,
And people are watching it as if it's good programming, and there's little subtle things that I never noticed. There's two older women that are constantly watching the show, and I didn't notice till I read a trivia thing that they're wearing the same robe his mom had, because as the Ed Harris character says in the Fluff interview, everything is for sale. So even as Truman is starting to kind of lose his marbles and attack his wife, and I guess originally that scene was to be violent. He was to violently attack her. Because keep in mind, this man is finding out that she's not real.
Right. That there was a touch of like a hint of violence in that scene. She holds him off with the knife or whatever, and he seems like he's a physical. He grabs her. I think, doesn't he put her in a headlock or something?
He puts his hands on her and he grabs her, and she definitely grabs some grabs knives and then she goes into pitching a product in fear.
Well, what happens is she starts to pitch a product. He says, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? He grabs her, and
Yeah.
she says, this is the giveaway line. She says, how am I supposed to proceed under these conditions? I can't work this way. This is unprofessional. She's looking at the camera. Well, and he's like, who are you looking at? What are you looking at? And then his best friend shows up.
Best friend comes in.
Right, always with the same 6-pack of beer, with the product placement with the beer that he's always
So much
carries around.
His saying, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah.
We can hit every time zone.
Right. right.
That's really why they said, and everybody's named after a Hollywood something. There's so much that I didn't see, because now, when I went back and watched it the other day, I'm watching it to have this conversation with you. So first of all,
my kid who was in the chat is just now walking in the room, so he can wait.
Tell him to walk by.
No,
he knows
she
me.
Was not talking to the camera.
Did your voice change?
She was talking to his friends. Remember?
Who? Oh. What? So don't correct me on the Truman Show.
No, we just watched it together.
No, his voice did change. Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at this guy.
He's gotten.
Oh my goodness!
Noah is the tallest person in our family now. The littlest one.
I'm gonna have a tear's gonna roll down my.
I know.
She was talking to his friend. Remember, not to the camera.
When he was holding her in a headlock
she then ran over to the friend.
Right. No, he came in right after she said that.
No, she said that.
We'll watch it later. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No,
You're not on this stream. Go back. You go back and chat. Go in the chat.
You have homework to do.
Yeah.
Take a bath.
Yeah, for sure. Take a bath.
It smells like hot farts and hot fries.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, so he had to correct me on that scene. That's why he came over here, because he was watching me describe the scene to you, and he had to correct me. That was what that was.
But that's
my life.
Do you think my kid's ever gonna call me to tell me I did something wrong? Motherfuckers ain't paid attention to me.
Well, sorry.
My youngest son told me that he thought I was DJ Lance from Yo Gabba Gabba, and he was heartbroken when he found out that I wasn't. I was like, motherfucker, I live with you. How do you think I was? He said, well, you was on tour with the people. I thought you was DJ Lance.
You remember Simon?
Yeah.
He was heartbroken to find out I wasn't really Seth Rogen. So. So anyhow,
but back to.
Well, I should say we're coming up on an hour. We got 10 more minutes here, but people should tune in to the Sublation Media YouTube channel, because I'm actually gonna, I swear, knocking on wood, I'm gonna have this video essay edited and out on Thursday about Guitar Board, Society Spectacle, and the Truman Show. So there'll be more and more Truman Show on the Sublation Media channel, and I do think it's better than, like, I find Jim Carrey to be maybe a little off-putting overall. Like, I'm not a big fan of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
But I think it stands up despite that aspect of the movie.
I thought it stood up well. I think there's little things, if you're really looking for it, that
like, here's the fact that it's sunny and pretty and sort of this, all-American city, or little town, that didn't bother me so much, because, again, like The Prisoner, the show I keep mentioning you haven't seen, it's all set on this beautiful resort island, and everyone, and everything is refined. Their tea, and it's so, like, the juxtaposition between the dark underbelly and the kind of bright, sunny, clean surface doesn't bother me. David Lynch will use that to some effect in movies like Blue Velvet.
I mean, for me, the only, I use issue loosely. I don't even know if issue is the right word.
Critique. There's criticism, maybe.
There's a brutality to what's going on to this person, right? Because he doesn't exist in our world now. Looking at it through 2022 eyes, you're like, yeah, whatever. Who wouldn't want to be the biggest TV show in the world? because we all want to be the biggest TV show in the world. And kind of back to what I was saying earlier about the end of history and the rise of pop punk thing I was writing, when the Soviet Union falls, there is no more big bad, and of course everything gets very internal when it comes to the wars we have with ourselves. And when you think about the quote unquote anti-authoritarian music of this time, which is like hardcore punk and hip hop, hardcore punk definitely falls down a rabbit hole of being really cliche. And the pop stuff is literally just product placement. It's just aesthetic. It's pop music with ripped jeans and lip piercings. That's all it is. Hip hop is aesthetic. It's the idea of, I come from this weird, super predator filled environment, but all I'm talking about are name brands that I could barely pronounce. It's just, the 90s was a time for brand freaking loyalty. I remember the criticism when people would say, hey, what do you, Jay-Z, you sure do rap about these brands a lot. They started to say, well, I don't talk about anybody that's not paying me. And that was meant like, oh, well, you're legit. You're only going to rap about people that are paying you. Or you're going to make your own, get your own vodka brand. And that means,
why is that legit?
Black capitalism wins again.
I would think that if you really like something and you rapped about the brand, that would be legit. And if you were being paid to like it, that's selling out.
I mean, my Adidas kind of sat alone in the 80s, and then the end of the 90s and through the 2000s, the shiny suit era, it's just all we're doing is selling shit, from cars that are too expensive to just an unreal lifestyle. No one's in the club that goddamn much. At then the studio I used to live in, rappers would come in there and this is give a shit. So there's a stage room that we had that was built out. It was at one time a club, and it got shut down by the city. So the stage stayed there, and it had kind of decent lights, but it's a great place to practice your stage show, because you should know, as a musician, you should be able to play in the dark. If your practice room is well lit, venues ain't gonna be well lit. It's gonna be dark. If you can't play in the dark, you're gonna have some problems. So it had very good club lighting, and I'd say at least once a week, some rappers would come in there and try to make it look like a nightclub. I got to get that lifestyle in here. We're constantly selling this lifestyle brand. And the one thing I see that's different is like now people are very comfortable with being the brand. Watching, I don't remember who showed me a Gary Vaynerchuk video, but the first time I saw a Gary Vaynerchuk video, he was talking about the fall of Toys R Us, and he was blaming it on Toys R Us not being innovative. He literally said to millions of people that Toys R Us was like not online. I was like, that's not true. They had been online since the mid 90s. Leveraged buyouts in Toys R Us. Why would you lie to people? But you're selling this idea that you are the man, the businessman. I mean, anyone that believes some jerk off that says that his dad loaned him $1,000 for baseball cards in the 80s and he made a bunch of money, I got a bridge to sell you. Because that is
an episode of Amazing Stories, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, there's an episode of Amazing Stories where this kid is collecting baseball cards and toys and comic books, and he doesn't do his homework, and he just doesn't do anything, and he lives a life of poverty, but he has all his things from when he was a kid that he really cares about. And then it turns out a collector comes along and pays him millions of dollars for it, and he suddenly is an old man. He's very wealthy because he held on to the things from his youth. So that's
Yeah.
what.
If I held on from anything from if you're my age or slightly younger and you got a garage full of Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards, you have fun with those paperweights.
Yeah, right. I know. It was.
Everything was
You know what
so
that was
confused.
when that came out in 1980, whatever.
Yeah.
It was trying to convince people like me that you can be a nerd and collect all this.
That's when
shit.
like the Beckett's got hot. Look, there was. Let's not lie and say there wasn't a market. Baseball card conventions started popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But those people, like me, that begged my father, who was making like $5 a decade, to take.
Someone points out, I thought it was. Someone says the episode I'm talking about had Mark Hamill in it. I think it starred Mark Hamill. It did.
Amazing Stories like 86, 87.
Yeah, Mark Hamill.
Yeah, if you collected baseball cards back then.
No, in the Amazing Stories episode, it starred Mark Hamill as a collector. That's all I'm trying to tell you. That somehow is important. Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. He'll always be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I watched Corvette Summer 25 times. I was like,
oh,
Luke
Skywalker's
in Corvette Summer.
Yeah. That's my favorite movie, even though I haven't seen it I was
Corvette
trying to
Summer?
decide. What would be a movie that I would be ashamed to admit I love, and it would be Corvette Summer. And it's not
nothing.
And it's not even because I really know that, because I've seen it like once when I was, around the time it came out. But I went to the drive-in a year or so ago, COVID drive-in time, and I saw a poster for Corvette Summer, and it's like the nostalgia hit me hard. So it's not my favorite movie.
I'm going to end with this.
Okay.
If anybody comes to you and tells you about NFTs, you pull out a 1989 Ken Griffey Upper Deck, and you say, this is an NFT from 89, and it's got me dick so far. With your bullshit dreams.
Okay, I will. That's what I'll tell him. I'll just tell him to give you, a call or ask. I can't talk about NFTs until first you have to talk to my friend Jason. He has something to tell you.
Yes, Sean Moon, the Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. rookie that you got in a fight for in the lunchroom. Worthless.
Yeah.
Traded a Jerry Rice rookie for that thing. Worthless. Goddamn Ken Griffey card. And this a-hole is telling people that he sold baseball cards and made. Get the fuck out of my face. This shit. This is Doug.
If the Truman Show were real, this wouldn't have happened to you, Jason. If you were the star.
If I was the star of Truman Show, I wouldn't know what a baseball card was. He didn't watch sports.
Would. Oh, it's true. He didn't, did he?
He couldn't watch anything that was current. Do you know? Here's the last thing I'll say about Truman Show, and I'll see if you guys notice this. Do you guys know why he listened to the music he listened to and watched the movies he watched?
I don't remember.
You should know this. This is so important for what we do with these video essays.
Well, because the television company that was making his show owned the rights to them? Or answer the question before you.
It was all public domain.
Oh.
They didn't want to pay for anything.
Right.
That's why he stayed in that era. It's like, if we keep it in this era, we'll never have to pay for music and movies. And as he's constantly watching TV, he's living a life and listening to music, we're just going to keep pumping in this public domain music.
Right. So that for him, the movies and the TV shows and the music never changes. It's all reruns after a while, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I should watch. Now I have to watch the movie again.
That's why the fashion stayed in that era.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything he's watching is of that time. The more you know. So if you guys are not patrons, become a patron. It's very simple. Patreon.com/Bitter Lake Presents. You get access to all the champagne rooms. You get access to movie night, which is going down this Friday. We're still going to do movie night. We're still going to do the Mau Mau hour with our brother as he's resting. Special guest. I'll tell Doug who the special guest.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that people are watching this and going, Doug Lain is not Pascal, and there's no doubt about that. But I hope
if Pascal was here, we'd be having a longer talk about the neoliberalism of hip hop.
Right.
So that and Doug is not allowed to talk about black shit.
I am not. Jason won't let me. I try, and he just shuts me down.
Don't you ever? If you even dream about it, you wake up and slap the shit out of yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if you guys find out Doug's been doing black shit, I don't even care if it's February. You send a message to This Is Revolution, and we will have a firm talking to.
Can I enjoy like James Brown, that kind of thing? Can it be from another era? No. Oh no.
You just keep listening to Lawrence Welk. Goddammit.
Lawrence Welk, Terry Manilow, relegating me to hell.
Thank you guys. We will see you in the bonus patron half where we're going to watch a little bit of this. I think it's kind of cool 1987 Twilight Zone reboot that's very, very Truman-esque. I want to watch it with Doug. I want to get his reactions. I want to hear what he has to say because Doug had made some comments about Truman being somewhat neoliberal. I think this show comes out definitely in Reagan's America, and a lot of those Twilight Zones were extremely right wing. Whoa.
Okay.
So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the champagne room. We are out.